Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed, Daf 30, Masechta Rosh Hashanah. Friends, what does Daf 30 talk about? Well, Daf 30 talks about, the difference between like Yavne and Yerushalayim, like that last part of the Mishnah that we saw yesterday. Opinion of Rav Huna there, some back and forth. It was spaghetti a little bit before, but it might not be that much spaghetti, whatever. Yeah, and then we get to a new Mishnah that we've actually seen before in Masechta. Where did we see this? In Masechta, was it Sukkah? I think, probably. Yeah, and the Masechta Sukkah, maybe Masechta Beitza, about the Omer offering, and then also definitely something that we saw in Masechta Beitza about when the witnesses show up too late on the first day of Rosh Hashanah. So that's what we're talking about today. Let's jump in. So we're going to start all the way at the bottom of Daf Chavtes Amud Beis. Amud lo echad Yavne ve'echad kol makom sheyesh bo bezdin. Remember, there was a machlokas in the Mishnah between Rabbi Elazar and those who argued on him, that said Rabbi Yohanan ben Zakkai that after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, Rabbi Yohanan ben Zakkai made a takane that wherever there's a bezdin, you can blow shofar on when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos. Now, Rabbi Elazar had said that is only in Yavne, and then they had said to him that no, it's not just Yavne, it's anywhere where there is a bezdin. So now, Amar Rav Huna says, Rav Huna ve'im bezdin. That says Rav Huna that when we blow shofar, it's davke in front of the bezdin. My vim bezdin, what does it mean? Vim bezdin bifnei bezdin. Okay. Lafuga shlo bifnei bezdin. Dilo. Okay. So it says Rav Huna that, friends, who can tell me what Rav Huna says? Rav Huna says that when we say that when Rosh Hashanah falls out on Shabbos, you can blow shofar any place where there's a bezdin, it has to be mamish in front of bezdin. Okay. Now the interesting thing is that all Rav Huna says is ve'im bezdin, right? With bezdin. The question is, what exactly does it mean with bezdin? We're actually going to see two versions of this. So obviously now we're looking at version 1. Alright? Version 1. Here we go. So it has to dafka be in front of bezdin. Most of Rava asked Akasha. V'odzo sais Yerushalayim Yisera al Yavne v'chule. Now the Mishnah had talked about how Yerushalayim kind of was had the up, one step above Yavne. It has a higher level of Yavne. Right, because we said Yavne is just in front of Bezdin, right? It's just in Bezdin, whereas in Yerushalayim it's not just Yerushalayim, but any place that could see Yerushalayim, things like that. So now my ve'od zos. What does it mean ve'od zos? Let's go weiter for a second. Ilemu kediktani zos mi baile. If the Mishnah was really just teaching us sort of the simple level that what does the Mishnah say? It says ve'od zos. Where am I? That in this way Yerushalayim was greater than Yavne. Shekol irshe hiroa v'shomas v'kova v'chololavo token uv'Yavne lo hayu token el bebezdin b'vad. Right. So if we're just saying, look, Yerushalayim is greater than Yavne to the extent that it's not just in the Beis Hamikdash, it's anywhere surrounding Yerushalayim as well. Whereas Yavne it's only in Bezdin. Rava says, look, if it was just teaching us that, then what's the deal with the word ve'od zos? It would just be v'zos isa Yerushalayim Yisera Yavne. What's ve'od? Ve'od must be teaching us something that isn't written in the text. So what's that? Eladib Yerushalayim token yichidin, uv'Yavne token yichidin. So says Rave, so maybe we'll suggest that what it means is that in Jerusalem, even individuals can blow shofar, not just in the Beis Hamikdash, whereas in Yavne in token yichidin, whereas in Yavne individuals would not blow the shofar, only the appointees of Bezdin would blow shofar. But is that really true? Yavne in token yichidin, is it really true that in Yavne individuals don't blow the shofar? Also Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef Amar, when Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Yosef came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he said, Ki misayim shlichat tzibur tkiyu b'Yavne, that when the shliach tzibur would finish blowing shofar in Yavne, lo shama inish kol une mikol tiku'ay dichidoi, that after the shliach tzibur would finish blowing shofar in Yavne, you couldn't hear anything other than shofar blast throughout the entire Yavne. I.e., we see that all sorts of individuals were blowing shofar in Yavne. So it can't be that what makes Yerushalayim greater than Yavne is that in Jerusalem, individuals can blow shofar, but in Yavne they can't, because what we see from the testimony of Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef, apparently in Yavne, plenty of individuals blew shofar to the extent that you couldn't hear anything other than the shofar. So Alav de Yerushalayim token bein bizman bezdin uvein shelo bizman bezdin. So rather, what it must mean is that in Jerusalem they blow shofar bein bizman bezdin, whether it's at the time that bezdin is in session, which is until 6 hours of the day, uvein shelo bizman bezdin, or whether it is not at the time that bezdin is in session. Whereas uviyavne bizman bezdin and shelo bizman bezdin lo. Whereas in Yavne, what it means is that they only blow the shofar when Bezdin is in session, but when Bezdin is not in session, they could blow shofar. They do not blow shofar, right? So in Jerusalem, you can blow shofar whether Bezdin is currently in session, i.e. it's the first 6 hours of the day, whether they're not currently in session. Whereas in Yavne, you can only blow shofar when Bezdin is in session. Habizman Bezdin, Mia token, Vafilu Shelo Bifnei Bezdin. However, here comes Rava's argument, which is, but in Yavne, as long as Bezdin is in session, even you can blow shofar even not in front of Bezdin. That is Rava's kasha on Rav Huna. Rav Huna had said that in Yavne, you could blow shofar since there's a Bezdin there, but it would have to be in front of Bezdin. Rava wants to argue that what makes Jerusalem on a higher level than Yavne is that in Jerusalem, they could blow shofar whether Bezdin is currently in session or whether they're not currently in session, whereas in Yavne, they can only blow shofar when Bezdin is in session. However, as long as Bezdin is in session, wants to argue Rava, in Yavne, they could blow shofar even not in front of Bezdin, which would therefore be a kasha on Rav Huna, who says that you can only blow shofar in Yavne in front of Bezdin. Friends, that was awesome, right? Let's move on. Lo. The ilu b'Yerushalayim token bein b'fnei bezdin bein shelo b'fnei bezdin uvyavne b'fnei bezdin in shelo b'fnei bezdin lo. Whereas the Gemara says no, Rav Huna is right that in Yavne it would have to be in front of bezdin, and this is how to understand it. That what makes Jerusalem greater than Yavne is that so both in Jerusalem and in Yavne you can only blow shofar as long as bezdin is in session. There's no blowing shofar when bezdin is out of session. Both in Jerusalem and in Yavne, you can only blow shofar as long as Bezdin is in session. However, in Jerusalem, you can blow shofar whether in front of Bezdin, whether not in front of Bezdin, whereas in Yavne, you can only blow shofar in front of Bezdin. Therefore, Rav Huna is upheld, and that is, and Zeo. And Rav Huna is saying, therefore, that in Yavne, you can only blow shofar in front of Bezdin, not in front of Bezdin. Or, in other words, even, wait, what? You see, that's the problem with double negatives. They get confusing. In Yavne, you can only blow shofar in front of Bezdin. Okay, let's say it like this. If you're not, no, that's double negative. If you're not in front of Bezdin, you may not blow shofar. No, but then you just have to forget about the second part of the statement. Just say the first part of the statement. In Yavne, you can only blow shofar in front of Bezdin. Full stop. Don't get into the negative, because then you have to do a double negative, which gets confusing. So, always focus on the positive, not the double negatives. To all the computer programmers there, always go with the positive, not the double negative. Got it? Good. Let's move on. Fine. Ikedemasni lahad Rav Huna ahad ichsiv. All right. Moving on. So we had just understood Rav Huna to be referring to our Mishnah. Right, that our Mishnah said that, Jerusalem is greater than Yavne, and we said that in Yavne you can blow shofar since there's a Bezdin, but it says Rav Huna would have to be in front of Bezdin, right, in Bezdin. Now, there are those who say that what Rav Huna is referring to is actually a different case. It doesn't have to do with Jerusalem, Yavne, Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos. Actually, still Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos, but not Jerusalem and Yavne. Here we go. There are those who teach Rav Huna on the following pasuk, that the pasuk says that on Yom Kippur of Yovel, you're going to blow shofar in all of your land. Milamed, it teaches, which teaches that every individual needs to blow shofar on Yom Kippur of Yovel. Amar Rav Huna, v'im bezdin, says Rav Huna, and with bezdin. Ma'ivim bezdin. What does it mean with bezdin? Bizman Bezdin. It means, not like we explained Rav Huna earlier, but earlier we said in Bezdin means in front of Bezdin. No, we're understanding Rav Huna to mean Bizman Bezdin. That when you blow shofar on Yom Kippur of Yovel, it is during the time of Bezdin. Afukish lo Bizman Bezdin delo, to the exclusion of if it's outside of the time of Bezdin, i.e. if it's after 6 hours a day, you would not blow shofar. And this is referring to when Yom Kippur is on Shabbos, I believe. Okay. Fine. Mosiv Rave. Now Rave asks a kasha. Tkias Yovel doche es ha-Shabbos bigvulin ishuveso. Now Rave says, 1 second. We have a brayso that says, you can skip towards Rosh Hashanah. You have the brayso that says that blowing of the shofar of Yom Kippur of Yovel is doche es ha-Shabbos bigvulin ishuveso. Outside of the Beis HaMikdash, a man and his family and his household. Ma ishuveso. What does it mean, a man and his household? Hilema ish ve'ishto. If we're talking about a man and his wife, it's mimachayva, but is his wife obligated to hear the shofar on Yom Kippur of Yovel? Mitzvahs esei shezman gramu. It's a mitzvahs esei that is time bound, right? It's only on a specific time, Yom Kippur of Yovel. And any mitzvah, any positive commandment that is time bound, that is within a certain time frame, so women are pturis. So what does it mean that on Yovel, that on Yom Kippur of Yovel, blowing the shofar is doches Shabbos bigvulin ish uveso. So alav ish bibeso. It means a fellow in his house. Ba'afilu shelo b'zman bezdin, even if it is not the time that bezdin is in session. Lo l'olam b'zman bezdin. To which the Gemara says, no, that's not a good proof. It is talking about when bezdin is in session. Kidu, each fellow in his own house blows shofar on Yom Kippur of Yovel that falls out on Shabbos in his own house, as long as it's during the bezdin is in session. All right. Well, so if Huna says it has to be as long as Bezdin is in session, Rav asked the kasha, we said no kasha weiter. Fine. Most of Rav Sheshes. Now Rav Sheshes asked the question. Shova Yovel or Rosh Hashanah. Okay, as we've seen a few times, Yom Kippur of Yovel is equal to Rosh Hashanah. In what ways? The Tkiyah of the brachas, for the shofar blowing as well as the blessings in the Shemon Esrei. Elo, Sheba Yovel token Bein bebezdin shekitshu bo asachodesh uvein bebezdin shelo kitshu bo asachodesh. That the difference is that on Yom Kippur of Yovel they blow shofar whether it's in the Sanhedrin where they were mekadesh the chodesh, in the large bezdin where they were mekadesh the chodesh, or whether it's not in the Sanhedrin. And every individual has an obligation to blow shofar. Rosh Hashanah, whereas in Rosh Hashanah lo ayu token ella bebezdin shekitshu bo asachodesh, they would only blow shofar in the Sanhedrin, where they were Mekadesh the Chodesh. And not every individual is chayiv to blow shofar. What does it mean that not every individual is chayiv to blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah? Well, if you're going to suggest that it means that on Yovel individuals blow shofar, but on Rosh Hashanah individuals do not blow shofar. But 1 second, when Rav Yitzchak Bar Yosef came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he said that when the Shliach Tzibur, the messenger of the congregation, would finish blowing shofar in Yavne, you wouldn't be able to hear anything because there would be so many shofar blasts coming, emanating from individual lungs. So we see that even on Rosh Hashanah, individuals blow shofar. So rather, what we want to suggest is that what the brayso is saying is that in Yovel, you can blow shofar, individuals blow shofar, whether during the time that Bezdin is in session, whether during the time the Bezdin is not in session, or Rosh Hashanah Bezman Bezdin in, Shlo Bezman Bezdin lo, whereas on Rosh Hashanah, individuals would only blow shofar when Bezdin is in session, and now here comes the double negative, but not when Bezdin is not in session. Okay, again, focusing on the positive, only when Bezdin is in session. Okay, fine. Katoni Mias, Yovel. So what do we see? That when it comes to Yovel, Bein Bisman Bezdin, Bein Shelo Bisman Bezdin. So what we see, or what we're arguing that the Bryce is saying, is that when it comes to Yovel, individuals can blow shofar whether Bezdin is in session, whether Bezdin is not in session, which is therefore a question on Rav Huna, who made the argument that when it comes to Yovel, when Yom Kippur of Yovel is on Shabbos, Rav Huna says that you can only blow shofar during the time of Bezdin, but not outside of that. Whereas Rav Sheshes wants to argue from this brisa that on Yovel you could blow shofar whether Bezdin is in session, whether Bezdin is not in session. Lo la'olam bisman Bezdin. To which the Gemara says nope. Right. To which the Gemara says no. Actually, what the brisa is saying is that even on Yovel, when individuals blow shofar, it would have to be when Bezdin is in session. However, Vachi Katani, this is the distinction between Yovel and Rosh Hashanah. Be Yovel, that when it comes to Yovel, Bisman Bezdin token, Bein Bifnei Bezdin, Bein Shelo Bifnei Bezdin, that, and Yovel, that, as long as Bezdin is in session, so then you could blow shofar whether in front of Bezdin, whether not in front of Bezdin. Whereas Rosh Hashanah, token Bisman Bezdin, Uvifnei Bezdin. Whereas on Rosh Hashanah, not only would Bezdin have to be in session, but it would also have to be in front of Bezdin. So the Gemara says, like Rav Huna, that you would only be able to blow shofar on Yovel as long as Bezdin is in session. The difference is that as long as Bezdin is in session on Yovel, you could blow shofar, individuals can blow shofar whether in front of Bezdin, whether not in front of Bezdin, whereas Rosh Hashanah, it would have to be not only when Bezdin is in session, but also in front of Bezdin. L'maise. Oh, the paper boy. There he goes. Drives off into the night. Okay. Itmar, Nami, Amr B'chir Bargamda, Amr Yossi Ben Shaul, Amr Rebbe, who's also stated that says B'chir Bargamda, the name of Yossi Ben Shaul, in the name of Rebbe, in token Ella, Kozman Bezdin Yoshvin, that they would only blow shofar as long as Bezdin was in session by Reb Zera. Reb Zera asked Akasha, Ninaru Lamud Lo Amdu Mau. What if they were like gonna get up, they were getting up, but didn't quite get up yet? Alright? Bezdin Yoshvin Ba'inan Va'ika, Odum Azman Bezdin Ba'inan Veleka, Teku. Do we say, well, we just need Bezdin to be there and they're still there? Or do we say, yeah, but they have to be in session, they're no longer in session because they're getting up? Guess what the Gemara says? Ich weiß nicht. Weiter. So in these ways, Jerusalem was greater than Yavne in that it wasn't limited to only the Beis Hamikdash. It was also sort of these like meta areas. Oh, that's a problem. Did Facebook just ruin the word meta? Oof. That's rough. That's rough. That's pretty rough. Oof. That's a tough one. Meta is a really good word. Oof. That's a tough one. Oof. That's hard. Google didn't ruin the word alphabet, but I think Facebook just ruined the word meta. Oh, that's rough. Meta is a good word. Oof. Okay. Oof. It's a rough one. Oof. All right. Wow, sorry. Gotta take a minute to regain my composure. We just lost a solid word. Oh, man. Oof. All right, let's go weiter. Roe pratli yosheves benachal. So when it says that in Jerusalem you could, as long as you could see Jerusalem, so you can, I guess, blow shofar. So probably yosheves benachal, to the exclusion of a city that isn't like in a valley, that they can't see Jerusalem. Shomas pratli yosheves b'rosh hahar. They have to be able to hear it. To the exclusion of a city like on a mountain, I guess they can't hear it. All right, krova pratli yosheves chutz l'tchum. It has to be close, i.e., within the tchum Shabbos. V'chol level pratli mafsik lo nahara. And also, you technically have to be able to get there. But if there's like a river in between and you can't get there, even if it's very close, lemaisa, I guess you won't be able to blow shofar over there. All right, friends, we're getting up to a new Mishnah. If you have deja vu, okay. So initially, as we learned in Masechta Sukkah, the lulav would be taken in the Beis HaMikdash all 7 days, and outside of the Beis HaMikdash just for 1 day. Mishachayev, right, as Rashi points out, it says, that before the Eibishter, you'll be happy for 7 days. So you take the lulav 7 days in the Beis HaMikdash, whereas you only take the lulav on the first day. That's outside of the Beis HaMikdash. Mishachayev Beis HaMikdash, once the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, She'lulav nitul b'Medina Shiva, Zeicher LeMikdash. But after the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takane that we take the lulav all 7 days as a remembrance to the Beis HaMikdash. V'shei Yom HaNeif kulo aser, and that the Yom HaNeif, that the day of the that we offer the Korban HaOmer, i.e. the second day of Pesach, the 16th day of Nisan, you're not allowed to eat Chodosh that entire day. Meaning when the Beis HaMikdash was around, so once they offered the Korban HaOmer, so you can eat the Chodosh. You can eat the new grain, the grain that was harvested that year. However, now that there's no Beis HaMikdash, technically speaking, you can already eat Chodosh from dawn. Right? If there's no Beis HaMikdash, so Memele, there's no Korban HaOmer, so you don't have to wait until the Korban HaOmer is offered. You can, technically speaking, Mida Oraisa, we'll see, maybe it's Machlokas, but for now we're assuming that Mida Oraisa, you could technically eat the Chodesh already. If there's no Beis HaMikdash, you can eat it from the beginning of the day, on the 16th day of Nisan. However, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takane that nowadays we do not eat Chodesh from the beginning of the 16th day of Nisan. Rather, the entire day, you're not allowed to eat Chodesh, wait until the next day to eat the new, the grain from the new year. Okay. Fine. Asked the Gemara, how do we know that there's this concept of doing things to remember the Beis HaMikdash? Because the pasuk says, "Ki ala aruch aloch," I will make like what's arucha? Remedy for you. And I will heal you from your wounds. Nu'um Hashem, the word of God. Ki nidacha karulach, they called you sort of what's that? Abandoned. Tzion hidarish einla, it is Zion, and nobody dorish is seeking it. Michlad deba Yezrisha, which implies that, well, we don't want nobody to be seeking Jerusalem, so if we have to seek it, how do we seek it? By doing things to remember Jerusalem, like shaking like taking the lulav all 7 days of Sukkot. V'shei Yom HaNeif kulo aser, friends, this is a Gemara that we saw in Masechta Sukkah. That Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that the 16th day of Nisan, nowadays you may not eat Chodosh the entire 16th day, even though Mida Oraisa you'd be allowed to eat Chodosh already from the morning. So, my timer. How come? How come Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai felt that we need to make this takana to refrain from eating Chodosh the entire 16th day of Nisan? Me'er yibana Beis HaMikdash v'yomru. Well, because we're concerned that the Beis HaMikdash, or we're assuming that the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt at any time. And v'yomru, and then the people are going to say, Ishtakid, last year, milachanu beheir mizrach, last year didn't we eat the Chodosh already from the beginning of the day when the sun rose in the east, lit up the east? Achshav nami nechol. So therefore they'll say, even now, this year also, now that there's a Beis HaMikdash, and really you have to wait until the Korban Omer is offered before you can eat the Chodosh, but they're going to say, well, last year didn't we eat Chodosh from the beginning of the day, so they'll do the same thing now, and that will be a mistake. They didn't know that last year there was no Omer, and therefore, Heir Mizrach Hitir, that once the eastern horizon became light, it was already mutter to eat the Chodosh, whereas now there's a Beis HaMikdash, Dika Omer, that there's the Korban Omer Matir. The Korban Omer is going to allow, the eating of the Chodosh, i.e., you have to wait until the Chodosh is, until the Omer is offered to be able to eat the Chodosh. And therefore, out of concern that people are going to say, wait, well, last year didn't we eat at the beginning of the day, so they'll eat at the beginning of the day now, but now they won't realize that that's because there was no Beis HaMikdash last year. So in order to avoid this, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, nowadays, don't eat Chodesh the entire 16th day, so that Memele, if you eat Chodesh the next day on the 17th, whether there's no Beis HaMikdash, whether there is a Beis HaMikdash, you'll be okay. The Mivnei Emas. Now the Gemara asks, 1 second. When is, what's our concern? Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, fine, so now, kind of like, what's that called? Kind of heavy-handed over here. He said, okay, out of concern, so now the entire 16th day, you're not allowed to eat Chodesh. Why did he have to make a Gezairas for the entire 16th day? It's a little bit heavy-handed. The Mivnei Amos, when is he concerned that the Beis HaMikdash is going to be rebuilt? If he's concerned, well, what if the Beis HaMikdash is built on the 16th day of Nisan? Well, if it's built on the 16th day of Nisan, and the third Beis HaMikdash, right, as Rashi points out, the last words on the page of Rashi, the Eibishter is going to build the Beis HaMikdash, the third Beis HaMikdash is going to come down immediately. And therefore, if it comes down immediately on the 16th day, in the middle of the day at some point, well, at the beginning of the day, the Beis HaMikdash wasn't yet rebuilt. And therefore, if we're going to say that Midoraisa, from the beginning of the day, you can already eat the Chodesh, so then what's Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's concern? Even if the Beis HaMikdash comes down on the 16th day of Nisan, well, at the beginning of the 16th day, there was no Beis HaMikdash yet, which means that, there's no problem with them eating Chodesh from the beginning of the day, because at that point there was no Beis HaMikdash yet anyways. Okay, well maybe we're concerned that the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt the day before, on the 15th day of Nisan. And therefore, comes the 16th day, already there was the Beis HaMikdash, and if we allow them to eat Chodesh from the beginning of the day, well then, but now there's a Beis HaMikdash, you have to wait until the Omer is offered, so that's his concern. But if that's the case, well then, why does Rabbi Yochanan have to be so heavy-handed? Fine, I understand why they would be unable to eat Chodesh now from the beginning of the day, but they should be allowed to eat it from Chatzos and on. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, right, from noon and on, as we learned in the Mishnah, Harachokin, that the people who live far away from Jerusalem, Mechatzos Hayom Ulahalan, they are allowed to eat Chodesh from noon onwards. The Fishin Bezdin Misatz Limbo, because Bezdin is not lazy. Bezdin is fastidious, and they will get and they will offer the Omer as quickly as possible, so that you can assume that even during the time of the Beis HaMikdash, even if you live far away from the Beis HaMikdash, by noon you could already eat from the new grain, because by noon you could already eat from the new grain, because you can assume that by noon already the offering was offered. So therefore, why does Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai have to say that nowadays you're not allowed to eat Chodesh for the entire 16th day? Say that nowadays you're not allowed to eat Chodesh until Chatzos, but after Chatzos you can, because even if the Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt, so after Chatzos, even during the time of the Beis HaMikdash, you're allowed to eat Chodesh anyways. So why did he have to say the entire 16th day is not allowed? So well, what if the Beis HaMikdash is immediately rebuilt the 15th day of Nisan at night? Close to sunset, or at night. In which case, even with Bezdin being fastidious, it's so last minute that they actually will need the entire 16th day in order to prepare the Korban Omer. Generally, they could get started on the Korban Omer earlier, and therefore they would be able to be done by Chatzos. But if the Beis HaMikdash suddenly comes down, in the middle of the night, between the night of the 15th and the 16th, and they're rushing to get the Omer together, they'll only be able to get it all together by the end of the day of the 16th. And in that case, we wouldn't want people eating the Chodesh from noon. So therefore, out of concern that the Beis HaMikdash will be rebuilt on the 15th at night, and it will take them the whole day to prepare the Korban Omer. So out of concern for that, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that nowadays only eat Chodesh starting from day 17 of Nisan, but the entire day 16 of Nisan, the Chodesh is off limits. Okay, fine. Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai b'shitas Rabbi Yehuda Amar. So it says Rabbi Nachman bar Yitzchak that when Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made this takana, it's because he was assuming like Rabbi Yehuda assumes, which is that actually the entire 16th midoraisa you're not allowed to eat Chodesh. That when there's no Beis HaMikdash, we had assumed, I was saying up until now, that when there's no Beis Hamikdash, Midoraisa, you can eat Chadash already from Mishahei or Mizrach, from the beginning of the day, right? That's what the Gemara was assuming. However, Rabbi Yehuda's opinion is that actually, when there's no Beis Hamikdash, the entire 16th day, you're not allowed to eat Chadash, and therefore Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was assuming like that on the, that when there's no Beis Hamikdash, Midoraisa, you're not allowed to eat Chadash for the entire 16th day. The Amar that Rabbi Yehuda says, and we're assuming that, now remember, Rabbi Yehuda was much later than Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, but still we're assuming that they were on the same page. That Rabbi Yehuda says, Ad etzem hayom hazeh, then when the Pasuk says that you have to wait to eat Chadash, Ad etzem hayom hazeh, Ad atzmo shel yom v'kasav ad v'ad b'chlal. It means until that day, until the 16th day, and ad v'ad b'chlal, that it's up to and including. And therefore, the 16th day as well, do not eat Chadash, only eat Chadash starting the 17th day. And Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai assumes like Rabbi Yehuda, approach, which is that the entire 16th day nowadays is also Midoraisa. That's what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, that nowadays we don't eat Chadash on the 16th day at all. And we say, but does Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai really hold like Rabbi Yehuda? One second, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai and Rabbi Yehuda argue. The Tanan, as we learn in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takana, midirabanan. He decided that nowadays you don't eat Chadash for the entire 16th day, midirabanan. Amar Rabbi Yehuda v'alo min hatoru aser. And Rabbi Yehuda says that, what do you mean Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takana? I thought midoraisa it's also dichsev ad etzem hayom hazeh. And it says until this very day, and up till and including. So midoraisa we don't eat Chadash on the entire 16th day. So it sounds like Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is arguing with Rabbi Yehuda. How could we be saying that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai agrees with Rabbi Yehuda? Hasan Rabbi Yehuda hu dekatai iusa Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai midorabanan ka'amar v'lo midoraisa ka'amar. To which the Gemara says no. Rabbi Yehuda in that brisa was making a mistake. Meaning Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, the brisa had said that according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, wait, is this a Mishnah somewhere? Oh, it looks like it's a Mishnah. Rabbi Yochanan. Oh, it sounds like it's a Mishnah. But anyways, in this Mishnah then, Rabbi Yehuda made a mistake. Meaning Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai had said that now that the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, so then Chadash is also for the entire 16th day, right? And he says it's a takana. Rabbi Yehuda understood that to mean that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is saying that midoraisa it's allowed, but that midarabanan, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is saying that nowadays he made a takana not to eat not to eat Chadash for the entire 16th day. Rabbi Yehuda said, what do you mean that you made a takana? That implies it's derabanan, but that's not true. It's midoraisa. But the truth is, Rabbi Yehuda was making a mistake. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai also says that it's midoraisa. V'hiskin katani. But what do you mean? How could Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai be assuming it's midoraisa? Then what's his takana? Takana is derabanan. You don't need to make a takana if it's already also midoraisa. So darish v'hiskin. No, it means that he darshan the pasuk of ad etzem hayom hazeh to say that nowadays midoraisa you're not allowed to eat Chadash on the entire 16th day of Nisan. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai says, when he says hiskin Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, meaning he said that nowadays that there's no Beis Hamikdash anymore, he took a look at the pasuk and he made a drasha. It says ad etzem hayom hazeh. It means until this very day, which is the 16th day of Nisan, and ad va'ad b'chlal for the entire 16th day of Nisan, we don't need Chadash, and it's midoraisa. Rabbi Yehuda made a mistake because he thought that when it says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai made a takana, it means midorabanan. No, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai also assumed it was deoraisa, and Rabbi Yehuda also says deoraisa, so they are actually in the same boat. Nu Mishnah b'Rishona yu makabel edus hachodesh kol hayom. Ho ho, friends, do you remember this from Daf Heiv Masechtas Beitza? That initially on Rosh Hashanah they would accept testimony about the new moon all day. Right? Comes the 30th day of Elul, so we have to assume that it's Rosh Hashanah, even though the testimony hasn't come yet. But if when the testimony comes and people will say that they saw the new moon, so memele, then the 30th day is going to be Rosh Hashanah. So you got to already from the night before assume that it's Rosh Hashanah. Now, initially, on the 30th day of Elul, so they're waiting around, assuming that it's Rosh Hashanah just in case. They're waiting. And whenever the witnesses would come, they would accept them. Even if they came mamash right before Shkia, they would accept the witnesses. So mamash the whole day was in limbo. Finally, right before Shkia, the witnesses come, and they testified that they saw the new moon, boom, retroactively, it's clear that today was Rosh Hashanah, and that's that. Now, Pam Achas, one time, but one time, that's exactly what happened. One time, the witnesses came super late in the day, after already the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim was offered, and with the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim, the Leviim, we're going to have to see what this means exactly, but they messed up with the Shir Shal Yom, with the song that they would sing with the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim, because they didn't yet know that it was Rosh Hashanah at the time, because the witnesses only came later. So again, one time the witnesses came late, and the Leviim messed up with the song by the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. So therefore, from that point on, they made a takoneh that on Rosh Hashanah, on the 30th day of Elul, they only received testimony about the new moon until Mincha. But if they hadn't yet come before Mincha, and then the witnesses, and then the Kohanim offered the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim, and with the Shir Shal Yom, so then we basically just established the next day as Rosh Hashanah. And if the witnesses come after the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim was offered, so then they just memele today was treated as if it was Rosh Hashanah, and tomorrow also they established as actually being Rosh Hashanah, 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. Fine. Once the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that we can receive testimony about the new moon all day on the first day of on day 30 of Elul, even after even late in the day. So the Gemara wants to know. So we had said, right? We just said in our Mishnah that one time was the 30th day of Elul, and the witnesses came very late in the day, and then the Kohanim messed up with the song that they sang with the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. How exactly did they mess up? So in Bavel they say that they messed up in that they didn't say any song at all. It was Mincha. They had to offer the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. No witnesses had come yet, so they didn't know. Is today Rosh Hashanah? Is today not Rosh Hashanah? So they didn't sing any song at all with the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. And then the witnesses came later. It turns out it was Rosh Hashanah. They didn't sing anything at all. It was a mess. Reb Gezairas said, no, what it means is that since the witnesses had not yet come, they assumed they had to assume that it was a weekday, because no witnesses came to testify about the new moon. So they assumed that it was a weekday. So they sang the song of whatever day of the week it was. And then the witnesses came, and it turned out that they made a mistake because they should have been singing the song for Rosh Hashanah. Reb Gezairas said to his son Ahava, is this 2 days in a row that we saw? 2 days in a row that we see Reb Gezairas' son Ahava. Reb Gezairas said to Ahava, his son, go teach them the following brisa in Bavel. In Bavel they said that they didn't sing any Shir Shal Yom at all, any Shir at all with the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim. Says Reb Gezairas to Ahava, his son, go tell them the following brisa. So they made a takana not to accept testimony about the new moon on the 30th day of Elul. Ella k'dei sheyeh shows bayom lakriv tmidin umusafim v'niskeim. Only, right, there has to be enough time still in the day so that they can offer the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim, right, the Korban Tamid, the Korban Musaf, their libations, Vilomar Shira, Shelo B'Shibush, and so that they could sing the song without messing up. And Reb Gezairas wants to therefore argue that we see from the Brisa that if we're talking about that we want to allow them to say the song without messing up. So what does it mean to mess up? Well, you mess up by saying the wrong one. Kilo, I understand if what it means that they messed up was that if the witnesses come too late in the day, well then they would have said the the song of a weekday, whereas they should have said the song for Rosh Hashanah. But Eliyamad lo amar klal my shibushika. But if you say that they didn't sing anything at all, So how did they mess up? They just didn't do anything, but they didn't mess up. If you actually sing the wrong thing, Reb Zeir wants to argue that that's considered messing up. And therefore Reb Zeir says, you see, it makes sense to argue that they said the wrong song. They said the song of the week when they should have said the song for Rosh Hashanah. But if you say that they pashut didn't say any song at all, so how exactly did they mess up per se? So and for the Gemara, came into law amur klal ein l'chashibush gadol mizeh. So and for the Gemara, well, by not singing any song whatsoever, so that's, I guess, the worst you could do, which is super interesting actually. Interesting that the Gemara is assuming that inaction is the worst possible thing. If they sang the wrong song, okay, so they messed up. But since they didn't, but if you argue that they didn't sing anything at all, that's actually way worse. There's no greater mess up than this, right? Inaction, there's nothing greaterly wrong than inaction. If they did something and they messed up, fine, memela, whatever, they messed up. But when you say that, but if they didn't do anything at all, you could argue that that's arguably ein l'chashibush gadol mizeh. There's nothing worse than inaction. Very interesting. Okay. Most of Rav Acha bar Huna, so now Rav Acha bar Huna asked the kasha. Talmud shel Rosh Hashanah shachris. Okay, we have a brisa that says that the korban talmud shel Rosh Hashanah shachris, that the korban talmud shel shachar and Rosh Hashanah, kariv kilchaso, was just offered like a regular weekday korban talmud with the weekday shir shel yom, with the weekday song. But Musaf ma'u omer, haininu le'lukim uzenu, harir le'loke Yaakov. And then, if the witnesses came and said that it is Rosh Hashanah, so then they would sing at Musaf the parak of Tehillim of Harninu le'lukim uzenu, Hariu le'loke Yaakov, right? Blow shofar to the God of Jacob. But Mincha ma'u omer, and then at Mincha, what's the song that they sing? Kol Hashem Yochel Midbar, that the voice of God shakes up the desert, which reminds us of Matan Torah when there were shofars and stuff. And what if Rosh Hashanah is a Thursday? So already at the Korban Talmud Shel Shachar, they said the Shir Shel Yom, which is Haininu le'lukim uzenu ha'ir le'loke Yaakov. Then the witnesses came and said it's Rosh Hashanah. So now it comes to Musaf. So what do? So lo haya omer b'shachris. Lo haya omer. So at Musaf. Wait, what? Lo haya omer b'shachris haninu mipnei shechozer v'kofel saperik. Okay, fine. Wait, I'm sorry. If Rosh Hashanah is on a Thursday and the witnesses came before the Korban Talmud Shel Shachar, so now already they know that it's going to be Rosh Hashanah today. So now, if they say the regular Shir Shel Yom at Shach with the Korban Talmud Shel Shachar, because we just said that, in general, on the 30th day of Elul, so Korban Talmud Shel Shachar, generally the witnesses would not have yet arrived, so they would just say the regular Shir Shel Yom. But what about if it's a Thursday and the Shir Shel Yom is the same Shir Shel Yom that they're going to say at Musaf, which is Haninu le'lukim uzenu le'loke Yaakov, and the witnesses came this year before the Korban Talmud Shel Shachar was offered, so they know already at the time of the Korban Talmud Shel Shachar that today is going to be Rosh Hashanah, and therefore the question is, if they say the regular Shir Shel Yom, they're just going to be repeating it at Musaf. So therefore, right? So again, so then at Shachris they would not say the regular Shir Shel Yom because then at Musaf they're going to just be saying it again. So what do you say? Okay, so instead you say Aseros Misevel Shichma, which is interesting because it's just a few psukim later in the same parak, but okay. And if the witnesses came after the Talmud Shel Shachar, Omer Aninu Afalpi Shechozer V'Kofel Saperik. Okay, and if the witnesses came after the Korban Talmud Shel Shachar was offered, so then Memela already at the Korban Talmud Shel Shachar they said the regular Shir Shel Yom because the witnesses had not yet come. Darus Aninu le'lukim uzenu, and then they repeated again at Musaf and whatever it is, what it is. Now, Yomid B'Shlomo Koleicha de Mistapka Arminan Shira Dechol Hanu Deka Amar Omer V'Choflo. So I understand if you say that, well, whenever we're not sure, what's going to be, so then we say the regular song of the weekday. So therefore, right, that's why we say that we repeat it, right? Meaning, we had just said in the Brisa that if at the time that, so it's a Thursday, and at the time that it came to Tamar Shel Shachar, the witnesses had not yet come, and we don't know if they're going to come, and we're saying that, well, okay, we don't know, but just do the regular weekday Shir Shel Yom. And then if they end up coming, so then we'll just say it again at Musaf. Right? So it says the Gemara, I understand that whenever we're uncertain, such as here, so Tamar Shel Shachar, the witnesses are not yet come. We don't know if they are going to come, then today's going to be Rosh Hashanah, and if we say the regular Shir Shel Yom now, we're going to be repeating it at Musaf. But if they don't come, so then, okay, we'll say the regular Shir Shel Yom, and that's fine. So Amina Shir Dechol, we'll say the weekday song, okay, well, I get it, right? We're not sure, and we're saying, well, just say it anyways and repeat it if you have to. But if you're going to say that when you're not sure, you don't say it at all, so what does it mean that you just say it and then repeat it if you need to? And therefore, the way that it ties in to our Mishnah is that when we said that when the witnesses came too late in the day and they messed up with the Shir Shel Yom, so the same thing should apply, which is that they're not sure if the witnesses are going to come. And just like by the Korban Tamar Shel Shachar, when they weren't sure if the witnesses were going to come, they repeat it. They say the weekday one. So then also by the Korban Tamar Shel Arbayim, when they're not sure if the witnesses are going to come, so then they should say the regular the Shir Shel Yom of the week as well. So answer the Gemara, Shani Asim the Shir Diyomehi. So the Gemara says, look, it's different when it comes to the Korban Tamar Shel Shachar and the Korban Tamar Shel Arbayim. Right? Even though by the Korban Tamar Shel Shachar, we say that even though we're not sure if the witnesses are going to come yet, so you still say the Shir Shel Yom of the regular day. Because that's the Shir Shel Yom, right? In any event, on Rosh Hashanah, you say the regular Shir Shel Yom anyways, right? If Rosh Hashanah is on a Monday, so the Korban Tamar Shel Shachar, you're going to say the Shir Shel Yom of Monday. You're still going to say it, right? So therefore, when it's a Thursday also, you're still going to be saying the Shir Shel Yom anyways. It's not that big of a deal. However, when we're talking about Mincha, right, you could still argue that maybe if we're not sure if the witnesses are going to come, you're not going to say it at all, because in that case, by Mincha, if the witnesses come, you're not going to be saying the Shir Shel Yom. You're going to be saying the Shir for Rosh Hashanah. And therefore, maybe in that case, you could argue not to say anything at all, out of concern that just in case, in case the witnesses do come, we don't want to have said the wrong one that we shouldn't have been saying. All right. Friends, well, that was Daf Mohammed of Masechta Rosh Hashanah. Another involved daf over here. The daf started off with the opinion of Rav Huna, who was talking about that when we say that Rabbi Yohanan and Zakkai said that any place where there's a bezdin can blow shofar on Shabbos nowadays. So Rav Huna said that is in bezdin. Right? That's with bezdin. The question is, what does that mean? So we had said it means in front of bezdin. Okay, fine. Ravad asked the kasha. We said it means in front of bezdin. There's another way to understand Rav Huna, that actually it's not talking about blowing shofar on Rosh Hashanah of Shabbos. Actually, it's talking about blowing shofar on Yovel of on Yom Kippur of Yovel. That Rav Huna says that anybody could blow the shofar, but it would have to be during the time that bezdin is in session, right? In bezdin, meaning at the time that bezdin is in session. Okay, fine. Then we got to a new Mishnah, which we had seen in Masechta Sukkah, which is that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that while during the time of the Beis HaMikdash, the lulav would be taken only in the Beis HaMikdash all 7 days, and outside of the Beis HaMikdash only 1 day. But once the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Zeicher LeMikdash, to remember the Beis HaMikdash, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said that even outside the Beis HaMikdash, we would take the lulav for 7 days. And he also said that on the 16th day of Nisan, Chodosh nowadays is Asr all day. We saw two opinions why. The first one is that it's also on the 16th all day midrabanon, out of concern that, well, what if the Beis HaMikdash is built at night, it'll take the whole day, basically the 16th, to get the Korban Omer together, and we're concerned that, well, if people say, well, last year already we were able to eat Chodesh on the 16th, and maybe they'll eat Chodesh the next year on the 16th. So in that case, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is concerned for that case, and he says, look, the entire 16th day, do not eat Chodesh. The other opinion is that actually Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai holds that Midoraisa. When it says that Etzem Hayom Hazeh, it means that throughout the entire 6th day, you're not allowed to eat Chodesh when there is no Beis HaMikdash, whereas when there's a Beis HaMikdash, once the Omer is offered, you can already eat Chodesh. Then we got to another Mishnah, which we had seen in Masechta Beitza, which is that they made a takana that once the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim is offered on Rosh Hashanah, they no longer accept, right, on the 30th day of Elul, they no longer accept witnesses about the new moon, because once the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim is offered, then they would have made a mistake regarding the song that they sing with the Korban Tamid Shel Bein Arbayim, and therefore, so the question is, what kind of mistake did they make? In Bavel, they would say the mistake that they made is that they wouldn't say any song at all because they weren't sure which was the right song. Whereas Gezairas says that no, they would say the weekday song, and then when the witnesses come later, it would turn out that it was Rosh Hashanah, so they made a mistake with the song. Rabbi Yohanan and Zakkai then said that now that the Beis Hamikdash, now that there's no Beis Hamikdash, we can accept testimony about the new moon the entire 30th day of Elul. Friends, that was Daf Lamed of Masechta Rosh Hashanah. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace out.